Hello and welcome to ThePapare.com. We are with you on the breakdown. Our usual host Sabir Kade is a little under the weather today, so joined by Paul Toya. Hope that Sabir gets well very soon. Paul and I are going to be looking back at the 4 games that we had on the Dialogue Rugby A Division League over the last weekend, and it was a very interesting weekend with a couple of talking points and of course that big upset in the middle of the table. Let's start, Paul, with the CR&FC game versus Navy. It finished 81 points to 23, but at the end it didn't look like anyone really wanted to defend towards the fag end of that game, and Dinusa Chaturanga with 4 tries was the man of the match.
Yeah, he was the man of the match, but 81 points in 80 minutes, that's really not acceptable. They were appalling, I thought, CH. It looked like a training drill where the two coaches say, okay, you have the ball, you attack, and we won't make any tackles. Players were just running straight through. They had good attacking lines by Navy, but there was really no defence. They needed to sort their attack out as well after they'd been touched up by Candy while they were away. So I thought they came back and they ran from depth. They ran good support lines, as I've already said. So they've seemed to sorted that out.
Yeah, 104 points in that game scored altogether in 80 minutes. So that's something that defence coaches will not be too happy about. But CH on their part scored their highest points tally this season, which is some positive for them. Let's move on to the next game. Police Sports Club taking on Kandy at the Police Park grounds. A sudden blitz in the second 20 minutes of the first half saw Kandy really take that game away from Police, and it was 31 points to 8 at halftime, but it finished 34 points to 23, and that game again, Kandy, just like they did with CR, allowing the other team back, and if Police or CR were better teams, they might have actually got over the line.
Yeah, Shanaka, it's a worrying sign for Kandy. I think their mental application in the second half was just wasn't up to scratch. If they're going to go on and become the champion of this league, then they have to make sure that they apply themselves and look for improvement in their game during the whole game. They can't just fall away and only score 3 points in the second half.
Yeah, it was a pretty disappointing performance from them. Tilina Vijay was our man of the match for the day, and he was really solid at the back, wasn't he, Paul? He's been one of those real finds for Kandy this season.
Yeah, he was superb. His positional play was excellent. He basically didn't let a ball drop to the ground. Police have got a funny way of attacking in that they sort of, if they look really good when they take it to the advantage line and they attack just with their forwards and off the 9, but as soon as they run out of that as an option, they just pass it straight back to Samsoni, who stands back in the pocket, maybe 15 metres back, and he just puts the ball up. And that's, it's a good option, but it can only be an option. You can't just do that all the time. And so that was disappointing for Police, but our man of the match, he was all over it. And so he brought the ball back well with intent. His running lines were excellent. He did nothing wrong all day.
Kandy is suffering a small problem with the absence of the Veeraratne brothers. Roshan Veeraratne didn't start this game because of an AC joint injury, and during the game they lost Gayan Veeraratne as well, their big number 12 and their linchpin. Fazil Marja having a bit of a quiet game, still playing his way back into the feel of things.
Yeah, look, as far as quiet games concerned, it looked like the second half for Kandy, the whole team had a quiet game. Probably another talking point in that Police match was the number 8 for Police, who took a knock to the head. He carries strongly. He took a knock to the head, slow to get up, came to the side of the paddock, was being seen to by the medical staff, and then vomited, which is a sign of a head trauma. That's a red flag normally, and normally you take the player out of contact and you let them rest. He managed to get back onto the field. He never actually fully recovered and ended up coming back off later. Now, World Rugby have just changed the laws to reflect their concern about player welfare, about head injuries, concussion, high tackles. And the onus is now put on unions, the Sri Lankan Rugby Union. The onus is on them to make sure that clubs follow that the protocol that they have with concussion. Head injury assessments need to be taken. And so now the onus is back on the local union to say to Police, that wasn't done right and you've got to correct it, and there should be sanctions or something needs to happen so that clubs don't put players back on that are concussed.
Yeah, that was a problem, and hopefully Radhesh Veeraratne has recovered. I hope he doesn't play next week because there's no way he should be on the park with that kind of a concussion that he got. One issue there for Kandy was that Kanchana Ramanayaka went on, got taken back off again, also in that same half of rugby, Paul. Bit of an indictment that Kandy things were not going too well for them?
They looked disorganised in the second half. The players seem disinterested as well. So what you really need from the management is to have everything running like clockwork, to say that we're fully prepared for this game. We've ticked all the boxes during the week, and once we get to the game, and get to the action, we know exactly what's happening. And it didn't look like they did know what was happening, and the substitution mix-ups were part of it.
Yeah, there was a bit of a substitution mix-up as well. Hopefully, the fourth and fifth officials will have that sorted before the next weekend comes around. Then we had another entertaining game, Paul, between Havelocks and Air Force. It finished 37 points to 29. Both teams scored 4 tries each, so it was just the boot of Dulaj Pereira that stood between this Air Force team and Havelocks, who are the title contenders at the moment. So Sudarshan Mutatantri with a couple of tries, and Prasad Madhushankar keeping on joining the try scoring as well. But for Air Force also, they managed to score 4 tries, which is a huge feather in their cap against the table toppers.
Well, they got all their tries late in the second half. Once the rain came, their resurgence came back, and it became such a scrappy game. Havelock Park, as we know, doesn't drain really well, and so it became like a paddling pool, and the ball was just flying around all over the place. Handling went dropped away, and that sort of equaled things up. And as soon as the ball went onto the ground, players were kicking the ball through, and it didn't look good. The last passage of play actually looked really good for Air Force, so we can't say it was all just ball on the ground and kicking it. They actually kept the ball alive. They kept on getting to the edge, and their attack looked really good, and I think their confidence came back. It's just that Havies at one point, they took the game by the scruff of the neck in the third quarter, and jumped away from 17 points all at half-time, became 34-17 really quickly, and sort of took the wind out of the sails.
Yeah,
of
both
Air Forcemen.
Both teams playing pretty positive rugby again until the rains came down, Paul. But they didn't really let up, did they? And the Havelocks just kept hammering away. But after a point, they seemed to lose their structure, which is something they can't do against better teams.
Yeah, I think the weather had a lot to do with that, the lack of structure. Before that, I thought their number 9, Raul Silva, he had a really good game. His passing gives them such great options because they've got much more width, but also sometimes he runs with the ball, and then the last pass he just flicked it back inside to the hooker, and he ran through and scored a try. So they're options that he gives to his attacking team that other teams don't have.
Yeah, that was good to see him back and starting and back to match fitness as well. Then we came to the big upset of the weekend. We had CR&FC at their home ground, one of their 5 home games in the second round. They were hoping that they will be able to win all 5 of them, or at least 4 of them, and contend for second place. But come this Sunday, all those hopes were dashed against Army, who managed to hold on by the skin of their teeth to win the game, 24 points to 20 after leading 14-7 at halftime. And even that 7 points was a pretty out of left field try scored by Sashan Mohammed, created by Omalka Gunaratne. So CR didn't really create a lot on the day, Paul, and Army was certainly the team that deserved to win that match.
They did deserve to win. They played to their strengths, basically. They've got a great team that plays close to the ruck, and they play with real intent when they get near the advantage line. So they're really hard to stop. Big physical players, and they just barge their way over close to the ruck. CR have got all the components to be a great team. They've got a good set piece. They've got some backs who are exciting. They just don't seem to have a game plan that uses all of those components in a way that they can win matches. So what we were seeing was they would attack the gain line, and they would just pick and drive or just play off 9. And they would get over the advantage line, and they'd put Army under a lot of pressure. And then once they got over the advantage line and the defence was in disarray, they'd pass the ball back to their number 10, DaCosta, and he'd hoist the ball up, and it just seemed to take all the momentum away, and they kicked away too much possession, and they need to work out a game plan that uses their strengths, otherwise they're gonna finish badly.
They look so dangerous out wide. They've got guys who can run the ball. They've got Rehan Silva, who was screaming for it and made a few inroads. They've got guys like Hamidu Pereira on the wings who are very, very quick. But they don't seem to be getting the ball to these guys enough, Paul. Where do you change? Where do you fix that?
Game plan, I think. 9 and 10 need to play attacking closer to the gain line. Probably put the kicking boots away. I know the forwards would like them to put the kicking boots away. Like you could hear on their fix mic, that's what the forwards were asking them to do. You know, they fight hard for the ball. Backs don't understand this as well as much as forwards do, but forwards fight hard for the ball, they gain the ball, and then they fight for every inch that they get to go over the advantage line. And then when they turn around and they see the ball being kicked away, it's just heartening.
And what about Asoka Jahalal for Army, Paul? He's had an outstanding game. He's shaved his head, but obviously it's had the reverse Samson effect for him. He's grown his moustache, and what a wonderful game he had. He put in the best chip of the day from a prop that was outstanding as well, scored a couple of tries as well, and really marshaled the troops.
Yeah, look, what I really liked about his play was his decision making. At the breakdown, you saw him playing 9 a lot. So what you see, and this is what I saw CR players doing actually a lot, was they'd get to a breakdown and they wouldn't know whether they should pick the ball up or they should go in and just seal over the ball. So most of them were going over and just adding another body to that ruck, where really they should have been a decision maker and picked the ball up and started playing. And Jalal, he did that. You saw him playing 9 a lot. He just featured in everything. His running line, one of his tries he scored, his running lines were perfect. He was outside the man, then he cut inside and he asked for the ball to be passed over the top. So he deserved his man of the match,
Yeah,
with or without that moustache.
Yeah, it was a great performance by him and the Army team in particular. And going forward, this is going to be a big morale booster for them, isn't it, going against teams like Navy?
Well, look, Army have they've been unlucky this year. They've played some really good rugby, but they just had a problem just getting over the line. They've gotten over the line this time, maybe by what they did, but also what CR did as well. We always know that when they play Navy, it's going to be a tough game anyway. Those two it'll be a ding-dong battle regardless of where they stand on the table. So they'll go on to the next round with a lot of confidence.
Yeah, that's a game that's coming up as well, Navy versus Army, and that's going to be at Valisara. So Army are going to have the double battle of playing the Navy in their little fortress there in Valisara. And then we have another match on Saturday, which is CR versus Havelocks, and this used to be one of the most hotly contested games for the Matthews Trophy. It will be contested once again, but Havelocks will be firm favourites to win that one, especially with last week's results. Police will play CH, and Police should probably put CH away, given the way that Police have been ascending as the season has gone on. But Kandy versus Air Force, with both Veeraratne brothers out, Paul, is there another upset on the cards? This was the biggest upset of the tournament so far, but this is in Nitawala, might be a little different.
Well, the way that Kandy have been tailing away their game, ever since that game against Navy up at their home ground, they've looked fantastic. But they had Coach Taylor there and he was watching, and his presence makes a huge difference to their mental application. This week they played half a game and then they didn't play at all. What are they going to bring next week against an Air Force team that already knows they can beat Kandy? So that'll be an interesting game.
Yeah, it will be a very interesting game, so make sure you stay tuned to ThePapare.com to follow all those games when we bring them to you live as well. And don't forget to keep it locked on this website for all the coverage of the Dialogue Rugby A Division League. From Paul and myself for this edition of The Breakdown, it's bye for now. We're sharing the passion with you.